Hi, everyone. So to give you a bit of like session outline, I'll start with the why, which is what you always start with, and then I'll go through like the three key points, which is why I feel people coming from non-tech backgrounds, or I mean everyone really, but they are uniquely positioned to succeed in the tech world. Um, I'll talk about the professional experience that we often see required at interviews, at job posts, and how I feel it's unfair, really, to all of us. And I'll talk about the power of community, which is how we can all help each other, and we can discuss about other different resources that are out there. And I'll use an analogy that I quite like, that I hopefully will encourage everyone to give it a go, take the first step, and then I'll share some of the details about how to get in touch with me, because I love to speak to all of you guys afterwards about what you think about this. So to give you the why, my name is Lukasz, and um, I've been volunteering at Codebar for about 2 years now, give or take, on a weekly basis. I've been coaching individuals living programming in codebar. And first, I was in person when we were obviously allowed to do so, and then virtually. And I've been like enjoying it like massively. It has been a lifeline for me during the lockdown, the extended lockdowns of 2021. I have a sort of pre-existing condition, so like I had to keep my head down, and code bars, the virtual code bars, have very much been my one of the only opportunities I had to speak to people outside maybe of my circle of friends. And I wanted to like say thank you to code bar and to all the people that I've interacted with, and as much as I was hopefully helping them to learn programming, you've been helping me to cope with all this. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. So to jump into the first bit, the uniquely positioned to succeed. So I don't think I've ever got a job in tech, even a very high paying job. And I've been doing tech for about 10, 15 years, worked in investment banking, worked in startups. I currently have my own startup that I'm working on as a solopreneur, so to speak. And I don't feel like I got any of these opportunities because of my technical skills alone. And because of that, I feel like we are all, but especially people who come from non-technical backgrounds, uniquely positioned to succeed. And the thing that I'm hearing banging there, but it's okay. I feel that the thing that we need to realize is that we all have these non-tech skills that can help us, and we all know technology to a certain extent. And it's really, a lot of the time, it's just about realizing that, hey, this knowledge is transferable, or the fact that I know a little bit of Excel can help me with later building reports via Python Excel generator, or that I know a bit of statistics will help me with some analytics and showing graphs on websites and building dashboards. So I know about all the experiences in my life, but I would like to kind of reach out to you and ask you, okay, what skill do you feel you have that either has or will benefit you when you join or have joined the tech community, which is a full-time techie. And I don't know if there's like a limited number of seats on the screen. Does anyone have an example that they would like to shout out? And if you type it on the chat, I will read it out. Hope I'm not doing anything wrong here. Okay. People skills. Yeah. Underrated ability to talk to people. Yeah. Communicate. Super useful for networking. Yeah, Bami. And Arbnar, yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. And actually, that would have been my first shout, which is, networking. I feel like, talking to people, even people that are like outside of your or immediate team, can be extremely beneficial. People move. I think like I moved all my jobs for recommendations as well. And knowing people and talking to them, hey, what's up with your life? And they tell you I'm moving. And I kind of, one time I remember I said to someone, they said to me, oh, I'm moving. And I was like, can I go with you? And they were like, oh yeah, okay, I'll ask. And I switched jobs for that. So networking, definitely, and putting yourself out there. So building up this inner courage of, hey, I want this, and I'll take action, and I'll ask. That is absolutely a super important skill that has nothing to do with technology and has nothing to do with your ability to write code. Being able to speak a second language and communicate well to customers. Yep. Understanding customer needs. Speaking a second language is actually, like, obviously there's tons of research on that I'm not an English native speaker. I'm actually from Poland, so I speak Polish, I speak English, and I know that it can be a barrier sometimes, and sometimes you're faced with this, oh, I know how to do this, how to say it in this language, and I don't know how to say it in that language, and there are massive parallels to programming. Like, it's crazy how being multilingual in programming allows you to expand your horizons. I would absolutely encourage you, even if you start off with JavaScript or just doing CSS or HTML kind of stuff, try to learn, or at least get a feel for some other programming languages out of there. Because first of all, it's very easy to Google how do you do this and write the JavaScript concept in Python, or how to do this and put in the Python concept in JavaScript. And at the end of the day, programming it's a very structured, algorithmic sort of field, and the programming languages are just like the words that you put in. You can learn translation of these words, and like you would learn in a foreign language, you can and know the concepts. You can do the same with programming. Art and Excel. Yeah, I think that being creative in general in programming, finding solutions for problems that you for outside the box, and that's what being from outside of tech also gives you, is invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. She tried before asking for help. Yeah, absolutely. So putting yourself out there. I remember like one of my first mentors, he always used to say, when I came to him to ask him a question, okay, what were the 3 things you've done before you came here? And I would always have to say, okay, I tried this, I tried that, and I tried that. I still can't solve this. Can you help me? And the funny thing about, getting people to help you is that, I don't know if any of you have ever heard about the rubber duck debugging. It's something that I use and promote and try to tell that to people, because half the time when I have a problem, when I feel stuck, and back in the days where you had colleagues all around, you could just bug someone and say, hey, could you please come here and I'll show you I have a problem. And usually the way that it would go, I don't know if some other people can relate, is that someone would sit down, and I'll explain the duck in a second, but with a real person, someone would come over and be like, hey, can you help me? They would sit down, say nothing, then you'd start explaining to them the problem. You would immediately realize what the problem was. You would say, oh, I know what the problem is, thanks for helping me. And the customer reply would be like, glad I could help. And they would just walk off, right? Without really contributing actively, but contributing massively by just giving that ear. And there is the rubber duck is a token that a lot of people use, and that doesn't have to be a rubber duck. It can be absolutely anything, but it's a token that you would bring to this sort of to the situation, and use it like that person who sits down and looks at your code, and you explain to the duck, hey, I have a problem, this is not working because of this, I think, and this or that, and then suddenly bang, and it just, hits you in the head, and you're like, yeah, okay, solved. And nobody else got disturbed. So a hat stand, and yep, exactly, Russell. Yeah, so a hat stand and a duck. It's effectively the same thing. Taking a break, Dimitri, absolutely. So, and I guess that, and often, like, I guess these skills also come from people who have experiences with other fields, like people who do physical work, or people who very, very physically demanding work, that they have to take a break because they're fatigued, and we get equally fatigued with our minds, and even if we don't feel it, it gets clouded, and we do need to take a break. Because it clears our minds massively, and then we come back and we solve it. Putting things into words, and again, that is, I'll move on to the next bit in a second. I just want to give it a couple minutes for a couple different skills, because I always find that sometimes very unexpected things can click to you as like, okay, I've got this skill, and it's really important. And words and putting things into words can absolutely can help you in so many different ways, because Googling is very much an art. Being able to translate your thoughts or your problems into Google queries, and there are books on that, which I can recommend to if you like how to effectively use Google, and probably tons of articles. It is, I feel, like one of the biggest skills that a developer can have, or can develop in general, because half the time we don't know. We're working on problems that nobody has ever solved before, or nobody that we know, and we don't know it. And half the time, there's an O'Reilly book. I actually have it on my desk, not here in my family house, but in my house back in London. I have a O'Reilly book about Googling, because it tips and tricks as well about how you can Google within pages, and how you can do, like, quotes play quite an important role sometimes in your searches, and then the whole concept of keywords as well. Teaching is such a powerful world. So I'll move into the next. Thank you very much for all the suggestions about the unique skills. And now I'd like to talk about the professional experience. And I really this is something I really feel very strongly about. I don't feel it's fair to disqualify someone just because they don't have X number of years of experience, or like professional experience, they call it on those job ads and posts, where people are saying, oh, you need to have 5 years, 6 years in an office. And I don't know if you've ever come across that. Has that ever brought you any sort of anxiety or worry that, hey, I might have come out of the boot camp, or I've been self-taught, and now this ad is asking me for at least 3 years, or at least 1 year of professional experience. I know that it has for me, even when I was at the very beginning of my career, or even now when I look at some job postings and they want years upon years of experience in certain fields, and or maybe within certain industries. And this is why I try to promote this sort of real life experience mentorship. Like exactly like 5 years dev experience, but no agile experience. So what I try to do, and I work with like some people similar to codebar, like as a volunteer mentor. And I try to be that project manager, the tech lead, that proverbial unblocker for people, so that when they are working on their project, it feels like real life experience. So, I try to do planning with these guys. I try to do prioritization, sprints. We do code reviews. We do PRs, deployments, sort of stand-ups, not necessarily daily, but just to have that experience of stand-ups. And I think that this is something that is missing, that it's sometimes missing in bootcamps, even though, I've never attended one, but what I hear, and it's also missing, I guess, sometimes in codebar sessions where you're coming in for a 3-hour session and you can have a problem, hopefully, to work on, or you're just going through a tutorial. It doesn't give you that agile experience, which is, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of practicing it, right? Having that experience, being able to confidently say, hey, I've done that. Like, I've done a project. And I would recommend that if you ever work on a project, especially in a group, if it's a group project, that you do try to incorporate all these standard agile, or not even, like, if agile is too big of a word, and it has been thrown around a lot in the industry. Just try to plan, create sprints, try to do stand-ups where people talk about what they do code reviews. That is the most important thing, always and ever. Code reviews, you learn so much from code reviews and from PRs, that it's invaluable, that it's invaluable experience. And finally, because you'll be able to put that in your CV, and more importantly, you'll be able to confidently talk about this at interviews, right? Because in your CV, you can put anything, and we all know that, keywords play a big role. You put these big words in your CV so that they get picked up by the algorithms and the scanners that the CVs are put through. But practicing it and having the ability to talk about it, it's really important. I feel, and I'm curious to know, do you guys feel like maybe a few more of you, like, do you feel like you're missing out because you don't have these skills, and if there is an opportunity to build these skills, and how would you go about that? So feel free to jump in if you want to say, or if you want to type. Absolutely. Let me know. And I would definitely encourage budding up, like, in general, like, even it's quite hard. And I know this myself. For the last 6 months, I've been solopreneuring my own startup, so it's tough. It's a struggle, and I don't wish it on anyone to be like a solopreneur. So buddy up with another person who wants to learn, and you can do each other's code reviews, and then you can do each other's PRs. To other industries that once you're in, it becomes easier to find another job. Yeah. It is similar. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, taking the first step, getting in. Yeah, it's a tough bit. That's why having that opportunity to learn these skills and being able to talk about it might be the in that you will get, to put your foot in. We have Kylo talking about the imposter syndrome and not a real developer. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, don't subscribe to that, like a real developer. Yeah. Right, the code pairing. Yeah. Yeah, getting to know. Yeah, so absolutely. So I would encourage everyone to try, to pair up with other developers or other learners, and try to follow these standard procedures, if not for their great benefit, which there is, but also for the ability to then have real life examples, whatever that means, for when you talk to interviewers, or you talk to recruiters, and they ask you these questions, and you can say, yeah, for a year now, I've been doing this and that with my team. We've been doing planning, prioritization, sprints. We've been building use cases, and I have experience with that. So I feel like that this is going to make a big difference. And then when you put it on your CV, and if you have a mentor, which I also encourage you to try and seek out, and everyone, not only like newbie technologists, but everyone can benefit from a mentor, is that if you have if you're doing these things, these ceremonies with your mentor, they can then confidently talk about your about you if they're put out as a reference. And I've recently had one of my now friends that I've been helping with a project in sort of capacity, sort of giving him some of the real life experience. He got a job, and I was like a massive. I was so happy for him. He was like trying for 2 years at the beginning, like always getting rejected because of not the real life experience thing. And then finally, bang, he put in 2 years working in a boot camp with a mentor, and he got accepted, and he had an interview, and he talked about all the things that we did together, all the reviews, all the deployments, prioritization, and sprints, and he got it. And he's like, I think it's a month and a half now, or 2 months almost in the job. He's thrilled, absolutely thrilled. Okay, we've got a message from Dimitri. I think there is also an aspect of marketing yourself, of your experience. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the art of CVing can be quite tough, and that is another reason why buddying up or talking to a mentor is a very and you can obviously. I would encourage to facilitate codebar for that as well, because I think in the 2 years that I've been doing this, I've been working on a lot of projects with people, doing a lot of code wars, which I started to enjoy. I never used to enjoy grinding the code wars, but there's been quite a few people who came in and just said, hey, I don't have a project. I actually just wanted to start a tech. Give me some advice. And we spent an hour or however long just chatting about, okay, what does it involve to be in tech? Let's have a look at my CV. What do I need to do? How do I need to update it? How do I need to like technify it, making it more technically sounding so that I can get that apprenticeship? And then it is an art to selling yourself. You definitely need to practice that, and it's tough even for experienced developers, because the expectations sometimes are quite high and unreasonable as well. Okay, so let me move to the power of community. I'm not sure. Let me just quickly check like the timing. So we have until 11:30. Just find another 20 minutes or so. And I'm going to use a metaphor here that I use, and you can tell me if it's any good or not. But I feel like, if I came to you and I said, hey, build a house by yourself, you might think, okay, this is very unreasonable. And this is kind of like when I come to you and say, hey, build a project by yourself. But the reality of all this is that, first of all, there are free blueprints available online, tutorials and walkthroughs on how to do things step by step based on real life examples, like build your own Twitter, build your own Reddit, build your own dev tool. Second, you need to sort of realize that someone else has dug the foundations of all this. Like there are frameworks and libraries of like an unlimited, especially in like the world of JavaScript, Python as well, and Java, and whichever language you pick, there's so many foundations. React being like, I'm a newbie to React personally. Like I've been doing Python for many years, and then I built my own project now, my own startup in React, and my mind was blown how much stuff is out there, how easy it is. There's material UI for my components, and I followed some tutorials, like step by step, how to build this platform, and I've custom built it to what I wanted it to do. And that's also why I know about all these parallels, because for Python development, I've done a lot of backend. I knew of JavaScript, but it very quickly, like, I was able to Google, hey, how do you do this? Like Python split list, how do you do it in JavaScript? Some things were quite surprising, like joining and splitting of strings and things like that. But I could relate, and those are the foundations, really. But then if you have a buddy, you have a friend, you have a mentor to coach at CodeBar, he'll show you how to put a brick on top of a brick, how to keep it level, how to stick it together with mortar, which is all these pieces of code that you need to write in order for it to stand straight. But it's according to the blueprint. It's based on the foundations that have already been dug. And I think the most important thing, which even like experienced developers tend to forget, I feel, and we even call it like this not build here syndrome, is that it's okay to get a plumber to do the plumbing. It's like you don't have to do everything yourself. You can either get help from another developer, you can get help from a mentor, you can hire someone to do it, like in the real world. Like, a contractor comes in and does part of the project, or a graphic designer comes in and does part of the project. A UI expert comes in and reviews your code, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't have to do everything by yourself in order for it to be your project. So that's something that I always talk about, and I make sure that folks understand. And through that I say how I ask for help all the time, and to kind of validate and make that experience shared. And finally, the building inspector to sign it off, right? So very often, like, we have this fear of release, and I have that, and I've heard from people saying, oh, it's not ready yet, or I don't think it's good enough. And that's where this building inspector, that someone can come in and have a look, show it to people, and they tell you, they do reviews, they do code reviews, or they do even discussions with you, and that helps massively. And don't shy away from showing your work, and that's about promotion of your experience, your project, and whatnot. And I guess my question is, what kind of resources do you guys use when you learn, and what do you think about this metaphor of building a house and all these different elements of it that that come up to the small bits that build the home? Does that sound like as half truth, at least? Yeah, I hope so. Well, all in all, if you guys want to stay in touch, I am on CodeBar almost every week, trying to help with Python, JavaScript, or anything that I can. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm not super active on Twitter, but I try. It's a tough space, and I have like my own link tree kind of page on .com that has like a reference to all some of the things that I do out there. Cool. Please jump in. Like, if you guys have any anything that you'd like to share or say, now we've seen the whole thing, even if it's about the first part or the middle part, it's I'd love to hear from you, even in voice or text. or if there's any like something more I should say about some of my experience. If you have a question for me. Thanks, Jess. Yeah. I guess I'll just kind of keep it open until the end of the session. If you want to like obviously jump over and try out some of the other sessions, I think there's some really good stuff happening there. With Lux Miro. I love Miro, by the way. Like, it's one of the best tools in the world, I feel. If you haven't played with it, it's like an interactive whiteboard that you can use for team working, planning, sketching, a million different things. Like I did event storming on it a lot. Lots of sessions. So I think Luke is facilitating that. His talk for that, and the advanced Git clinic. God, I know that I could use that sometimes. Terrified of merging, personally, and I don't want to start any sort of like wars over wherever you pool, or what's the big contention, whether you should be merging or something. I don't even know. I'm not going to position myself as a Git expert. Or merge or rebase. There it is. I knew I knew something was there. Yeah. So I tend to rebase personally. Like I always rebase my main branch, and then I create a separate branch on top of that. But I know that there are for and against. Yeah, that's true. It's often, you can say, why would people argue between Emacs and we? But that is another one. Yeah. People in tech have strong opinions. That's for sure. Hi, Dimitri.
Sorry, just joined because I think it's really weird for you to have the session and just talking to the void. But I have the banging noise in the background outside. Like building a house metaphor. In fact, somebody is doing it.
Well, it is what it is. Noise cancelling headphones, the bliss. Not only for the office, but also working from home. Thank you for joining. So what did you think? What did you think about the session?
I was a bit confused about the last point. What you were saying in general, like the building metaphor. I mean, yeah, I just didn't get what was the...
Yeah.
No, the question at the end, what was about?
Yeah. So I feel, so it's related to the community and the fact that, I guess in some communities, when you build a house or when you build a barn, like everybody comes together and they help out. And also you don't do everything by yourself, but you have all these additional resources. Like certain people are specializing in certain things. You might get certain tools to do certain things. So it's never like a solo experience. And if you were presented that solo, then it's overwhelming. It's almost impossible to do. But if you gather people around and if you reach out to the resources that are available, it becomes much more manageable. And it's just a matter of like taking the first step and doing it, like you would one bit at a time.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if for different people, it would be different things. So that, I don't, I think it's a one right way. Just like that's how I think about it in my head. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I was always just thinking of, not always, but I think it's a good like idea to try and think, what about other industries? Like, is it really that special to software? Well, I think it must be similar in any other industry. I don't know, like if you think whatever, audio production or something like that. It's probably kind of similar thing. You go talk to people, and maybe it's less open. I guess that's maybe the advantage of software. That people are quite open to it.
Yeah. What I'd say is that, which is an interesting point here. It's like, and you know, some people might take offense of that, some people might not. So I'm sorry, but like, I don't feel like technology is a special industry. Like, it's not for selected people. It's not special. It's just another avenue. It uses different tools. It's really, actually, I feel like, well, technology is actually very much like very open, and then anybody can do this, and that's what I'm trying to promote. So as well, or the codebar is trying to promote very much. So yeah, so I don't think that it's necessarily special to building software, but that's also that great if you feel that this metaphor works for whatever industry you're currently in. Let's say as a student, then just bring it over, like just follow it. You will be able to very much in technology. And if you choose not that technology is not for you, because again, it's not a one-way street coming from a non-tech background to a tech background. You might find it not for you, and then you can still come back and do. There's no shame in that.
I think Kylo wrote a question about it.
Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, so we have a question from Kylo about specializing, and is learning abroad is possible a better approach? I think it depends, and I think throughout my career there has been like that opinion has fluctuated. Some people at the very beginning of my career, like 10-15 years ago, would say, oh, you absolutely need to specialize. You need to learn JavaScript to the letter, or you need to learn Java to the letter, and then you will get a great job. And I think that the problem is that when I started, there was Java 2, and now there's Java 9 or whatever it is, right? And specializing at that point in Java 2 would have not benefited me now, unless I would like really very much keep up with that knowledge and that soul knowledge. However, I would miss out on Go. I would have missed out probably on Python. And I would miss out on JavaScript, because at the beginning, JavaScript, now it is a powerhouse. But believe me, like back in the day, JavaScript was not as glamorous as it is now. And it was only the power of people who came in from all the different places and knew all these different things, ported libraries, created equivalent libraries, and that made it where it is. So I think it's good to know your skill. And then there's great pride in it. And then there's also great confidence in it when you know a skill very well, you craft. But being aware and trying different things, just like being a multi-language developer rather than a single language, that opens up your horizons. And you can bring concepts over, like mixins, for instance. I first learned about mixins when I was like toying with Ruby, and then it turned out you can do that in Python as well, and probably in many different languages. And it's such a great alternative, like the composition of it is such a great alternative to object-oriented programming. And I know there's a talk about object-oriented programming, which has changed the world of programming. But composition is on the other side, and that's another big debate. Actually, that I shouldn't start the object-oriented versus composite programming, but that comes from knowing about different things, a broad approach. I think, Kyle, that'll be my answer. Are there any other questions? I might bring. Yeah. So I think my message to the world is just like, go for it. Try. And it's like the anti-Homer Simpson. Trying is the first step to failure, but don't follow that advice. Try, and if you fail, try again. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's running out of time anyway, and it's just I have the tendency to ramble, so like I'm happy to just talk to the void, unfortunately. But feel free to jump in and and reach out again for all the channels that are available. But it's been a massive pleasure talking to all of you and answering your questions and reading out your answers to all the things. And hopefully I learned a lot or something that we can take away.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go and take a break.
Thank you.